Hey, what's up, lightboltjoe here. Today we are going to discuss the 2018 HBO miniseries Sharp Objects. This stars Amy Adams, Ellis is in this, a bunch of other people are in this. This was 8 episodes long. I think it was nominated for a few things. I don't think it won. Th- this was when you watch the trailer, it's a murder mystery, okay? And you're like, oh, it's got an awesome cast, and it's going to be great because it's a murder mystery with an awesome cast. And it's based off of a book. I've never read the book. Didn't know it existed. And I'm watching it, and these 8 episodes are taking forever to get through. Forever to get through. This is a character study on characters with a dash of murder mystery thrown into the mix, with a very twist ending at the very, very end, which wasn't even a twist because the suspect... The non-suspect, was suspected in episode 4. So, like, it's not a twist. It's not a real twist because it was the thing 4 episodes before the ending. I don't know, man. Like, it takes place in Wind Gap, Missouri, and they're very Republican and conservative and just trash. And they have this thing called Calhoun Day, which celebrates the Confederacy. But, like, I had to look this up because I hate American history. I hate American history. But I had to look it up because I needed to know if A, Missouri was a state during the Civil War, and B, if Missouri was a state during the Civil War, what side of the war was it on? Because technically it's a Midwestern state, but it's north of that Bible Belt that's referenced all the time. Missouri fought for the Union, and there was major battles within Kansas and Missouri, Union versus the Confederacy, but Missouri was a Union state. So I don't know when the hell it became, oh yeah, no, we're Confederate, hundreds of years later, when in fact that they were actually fighting for the Union. I don't understand. So, like, you had all these guys waving Confederate flags and in Confederate, coats and stuff. It was just awkward. It was weird. Amy Adams plays this character, Camille Preacher. Camille had a younger sister pass away when she was, I don't know, 12, 13, something like that. But, like, it's a small country town, and, like, everybody gossips and everybody talks, and her mother, Adora, is, like, the queen bee. She runs the pig slaughterhouse empire that is the main staple of Wind Gap. It's where all the money comes from. But, like, things. There's a detective in from St. Louis who's doing... Kansas City. And Camille has moved to St. Louis, and now she's back to do a report on these 2 dead girls. And that's the premise. Who killed these girls? Natalie and Anne. Why were they murdered? Who's hiding it? And nothing is thinged. One of the brothers, John Keene, is pinned as the murderer, but he's not the murderer, and he sleeps with Camille at one point. It was just so awkward. The detective sleeps with Camille at one point. So awkward. When we get to the murder mystery parts of the story, awesome. Even though, again, the actual murderer was in fact a suspect in episode 4, and yet it was just pushed under the rug and no one talked about it until the very end, when Camille realizes who the murderer is, and all things are done. But Adora was finally prosecuted for the death of the girls, but also for the death of Marion, who is the youngest daughter that Camille had. Munchausen syndrome or something like that. I don't know, whatever the hell it's called. It's when mothers are, like, batting for, like, hero awards and, like, all this praise for taking care of their sick child, when in fact the child's not sick. The fact that the mother is making the child sick by slowly poisoning them. Munchausen syndrome, something like that. So that's how the youngest daughter died, and then now Camille and Amma, the 2 other sisters, are starting to be poisoned. But then she's caught, and things about... It was a stupid character study. I gotta be honest. It was a stupid character study. It took far too long to get from point A to B to C about the trauma that these characters have experienced, when it could have just been, okay, great. There was so much drinking in this movie that it was irrelevant. And I hated the flashbacks, which were 1 to 2 second flashbacks of Sophia Ellis as the younger Camille. Sophia Ellis is a goddess. Give her a whole episode, for all I care, of backstory. I don't understand. So I loved the murder mystery part of it, despite the fact that the actual murderer was a suspect in the 4th episode and then revealed as a twist ending after the trial at the end of the 8th episode. But that suspense was cool. The character study could give a rat's ass about it. I watched it because I love Amy Adams and I love the cast. I wanted to watch a series as I was making these webbed corpse props for Halloween. As you can see behind me, I'll just demonstrate. I'm not demonstrating, but we have my corpse, right, wrapped in duct tape and paint, but then I'm literally crocheting on a web to keep the corpse in play. You hear that? There's a spray bottle inside. You take your recyclables and you put them in bags, and then you tape the bags, and then you tape over all everything cocoon-wise, and then you cocoon the cocoon after you paint it. It's a process. But I wanted to watch something while I was doing this, so there we go. A whole mini-series or something. Yes, and thus concludes our conversation on Sharp Objects on HBO. It's good for a murder mystery, despite the fact that the suspect was suspected. I could have lived without it, to be completely honest. I'm going to give it a solid 4 out of 10. Some parts were good. Everything with Sophia Ellis was great. Some parts were good. I'd give it a 4. I think that's reasonable. A 4 is fine. That's it. That's all I got. Mucho mahalo.